Welcome everybody. Today we are going to be looking at building the header of a landing page using HTML and CSS. So this tutorial is just to get you started and introduced into HTML and CSS so that you can see what you can do with those two pieces of technologies. So the thing that I'm using to write my code is VS Code. You may use any other code editor, that's perfectly fine, but I prefer to use VS Code. There are a few extensions that I already have in place in my VS Code that I'll be using throughout this this tutorial. And one of those is Live Server. So Live Server by Ritwick Day. And what this will allow me to do is basically start a local host kind of preview of the website or a thing that I'm coding at the moment. So that is quite nice to have. And maybe you don't have the same theme, most likely you don't, but the theme that I'm using is called Material Theme, and that can also be found in the marketplace. It's the Material Theme by Mattia Astorino, and once you enable that, once you download it, you can then enable any one of those themes through the command palette. You could type color theme and that will come up, and then you could choose. I mean, these are the regular ones, so I'll start from the beginning. These are like the regular, the Quiet Light, the Abyss. This is the default Visual Studio Code theme that comes in, and then you have the different material themes. I like using Ocean High Contrast, so I will move on with that. All right, so on to the coding. What I usually like to start with is creating a folder called Styles, and inside my Styles folder is where all my CSS is going to go. And then I always have an index.html file where my initial styling is going to go as well. What I can do in Styles is add a styles .css. That will be my CSS file. Won't do much with it there, but I will create a skeleton using Emmet. And what you can do with VS Code is that you could use the exclamation mark. So if you type in the exclamation mark, the inbuilt Emmet, so Emmet comes with VS Code, and it's kind of like a code completer, kind of guesses what it is that you want to write and completes it for you. So I want to create an HTML skeleton. I would just use Emmet to do that. I'll change the title of it to landing page, and have a few different things. So the first things first is that I'll have an H1. And H1 represents a heading, so the highest forms of headings in HTML. And my H1 will be get started with coding today. Get started with coding, and then I will have underneath the H1 a subheading. So if this is my title, I'll have a subtitle, and my subtitle will simply be I'll make it a P tag. So a P is a paragraph, paragraph tag, and you can use this to write text basically. So all the text and stuff that you see on websites are usually wrapped around a P tag, but I'm going to make my subtitle into a P tag. And I'll say learn HTML and CSS today. Actually, I'll even say and because it's easier to read. I think that's about it. Now I want to see this actually come up, so I am going to use my live server. So I'll just bring up my command palette here. Usually there is a button down here that says live server, but that button is not really showing on mine, so I'll just open with live server. The shortcut, if you're using Mac, would be the command L, command O, and that will start it, or you can go to the command palette, and then I'll just bring this down so that we see it. There we go. So get started with coding, learn HTML and CSS today, and that is the index.html. I have this locally. That represents everything that I've been writing here. So quickly before I let you go, the cool thing about live server is that it changes at the same time. So it changes in real time. So if I just change this to learn HTML and CSS and went back to the live server, that changes as well. All right, stay tuned. In the next video, we will start looking at how we can add styling to this.